mean, how many people have a job where as soon as they come out, everybody is so excited to see you that they just jump and they honk and they scream and they climb up on you and they peck at you. And it's like a standing ovation every morning. As soon as I come outside, everybody's excited to see me. They're like, the food lady is here. And they're so happy.
Yeah.
What a great job, right?
Yeah.
And then same thing when I go inside. When I go inside, Cody and Beauregard, they're so happy that I'm back. You know, so all day long, my job is one applause after another. Everybody's happy to see me. I'm the food lady. I'm not going to lie and say there aren't times where I wish I could just stay in bed today. But it's not good for me to stay in bed all day, you know? So if I want to have a pity party, it's got to be a short one.
Cool, so we'll just have all the animals in the background doing their thing. A lot of different sounds. All right, Cathy, well, thank you so much for having me this week. This has been an amazing experience, living at a sanctuary, seeing how you run it. So for those people that don't know Flip Flop Animal Sanctuary, why don't you just introduce yourself and introduce the sanctuary?
Okay, so I'm Cathy, and this is the sanctuary. There's about between 75 and 80 residents here, depending on what's going on. Most of the time when animals come here, they live out their lives here. We don't very often rehome anybody. The few times that we've done that has been because it was for the benefit of the animal. We have geese and ducks and emus, and we have a potbelly pig. He's asleep in one of the kennels back there. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we rely on volunteers and funding from the public to run the sanctuary. And here we are.
It takes a really special person to dedicate their entire lives to caring for animals, to spreading the message about what happens to them. And so why don't you just take us back to when you first connected with animals? What made you want to dedicate your whole life to doing this?
You know, when I was very young, I guess maybe I was 9 or 10 years old, I found an injured kitten. And I talked my parents into taking him to the vet. And the vet saw the kitten, and he had a broken leg, and he had some other issues. And they gave us an estimate, you know, for what it was going to cost. And my parents were like, no, you know, we don't have that kind of money. And they didn't. And so I wrapped the little kitten up in the towel, and I came back home not knowing, because I wouldn't let them destroy him, not knowing what I was going to do with him. And I ended up, I gave him a bath. I put a cute ribbon on his neck. I got me a coffee can, and I went around knocking on all the doors in the neighborhood. Of course, now you can't do that now. Saying, hey, I found this kitten in our neighborhood. Now we need to fix him. And everybody would throw in a few coins here and there. And I did this for a week. And when the can was full, I went back to the vet, and the vet found out what I did and knew, you know, and he took the whole can, and I don't know how much money was in there, but I'm sure it wasn't enough to cover. And he said, okay, fine, we're going to fix the kitten. And that's what he did. And that was the beginning of my, you know, from then on, anytime I saw an animal or something in distress, I did wildlife rehab for years. I used to volunteer for an organization called Chesapeake Wildlife Sanctuary. I think they're defunct now, but for a long time they were a nonprofit that helped with wildlife here in Maryland. I was a licensed wildlife rehabber for years.
You were the first in the state of Maryland.
Yeah, first female.
First female.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
I had my federal permit for a lot of time, you know, a long time. I once helped DC Humane Society with some cougar cubs that they came across during, it was actually the police in DC did some kind of drug raid, and in the basement of this house were these cougar cubs. And nobody knew what the heck to do with them. This was, you know, 40 years ago. And at the time, I was working as a stable hand at a barn, and I said, you know, I got a place where these cubs can hang out until we can place them with a zoo and so I only had them for like 3 days, but that was an awesome experience.
That is so cool. Wow. And so all of these different animals have their own personalities. Why don't you tell us about some of the animals that you have here at this sanctuary?
Like Holiday.
Oh,
This is Holiday. He is a turkey. He's a heritage breed. He he's just like having a puppy dog. He really is. He likes to get up on your lap if you'll let him. He follows you around. He will, like if I leave from here and I don't close the gate and I walk up to the street to the mail, he'll follow us.
oh my God.
He'll walk all the way up to the street and then he'll come all the way back. Um, he shows off just like a puppy dog would do, trying to get your attention. That's what he's doing right now. Look. The Peking ducks over here, we got them from a feed store. They were a feed store surrender. Dick duck actually is, I think they're 6 years old now, and she has what's called ascites. And it's so hard to find a good vet in this area. And so the vet that we took her to, ascites is like a collection of water fluid on the abdomen. And his answer was to euthanize her. And this was 3 years ago. And I said, well, no, we don't want to do that. Can you just drain the water? And he wouldn't do it. He said, no, that won't work. And so we came home, and I swear, we watched some YouTube videos. And believe it or not, there's actually a YouTube video woman who shows you how to drain the water from a duck with ascites. And that's what we did. And that was 3.5 years ago. And we've done it twice since then. And look at her. She's happy as can be. She's living her best duck life. You see the one duck up in the house?
Yeah.
He's sticking his head out.
It's amazing.
And,
I mean,
so-
and also your previous experience taking care of wild animals has, I guess,
Right.
led you to then learn how to care for these kind of
Right,
animals. Because
exactly.
you're taking in basically all the animals that people don't want. You're taking in farm animals, the amount of animals that are killed every single year for food, entertainment, cosmetics. You are taking some of these animals in.
Right.
And so what do you wish that people knew about chickens and ducks and turkeys and geese?
You know that they don't deserve to be on our plates. They deserve to be out here. I wish we could save all of them. They deserve to live their life. And they deserve to not be bred into captivity in the first place.
Right.
And genetically manipulated to the point where they can't have a decent quality of life because they grow so quickly. And, even with the Cornish cross hens, that people keep them and, monitor their food and help them live the best life that they can. The simple fact of the matter is they should never have been genetically manipulated to be what they are.
Right.
It's sad because they have their own personalities. I mean, each one of these chickens that you see walking around back there, each one has its own different personality. Like when we put everybody to bed at night, okay, when I count to make sure everybody's there, if somebody's missing, before I start looking all over the sanctuary to figure out where she is, all I have to do is look and see, well, is it Cupcake, or is it Starbucks, or is it Honey, or is it Barbie? And once I know who's missing, I know where to go to look for them because they each have their own special hiding place. So it's totally, it boggles my mind that people think that chickens don't have feelings or that turkeys don't have feelings. They recognize me. They know who I am. They recognize somebody else. Exactly like your cat or dog.
So when you were getting into the animal rescue world, there's a lot of people that rescue animals, but that also eat animals. And there's a lot of veterinarians that save animals' lives, that perform life-saving surgeries, that give them medications, but then also eat their patients. So what was it that helped you make that connection?
I think the thing that finally made me go 100% vegetarian. Now, I still wasn't vegan yet at that point, but completely cut out all meat and say, that's it. I don't care what. I'm never eating. And that was because I really didn't understand or know about the dairy industry.
And what year was this?
Oh my gosh, that was 30 years ago, I guess. And it wasn't a big deal. So I didn't make it like an official, and I just decided in my own brain, okay. And that was working with these guys and seeing, how they are. And the biggest thing was with Pumbaa, when Pumbaa was a little baby. And I was literally petting this pig in my kitchen. He was a little tiny, 3.5, 4 pound piglet. And I was frying bacon on the stove. The disconnect is real.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't even eat that pan of bacon because something just kind of clicked, and I took the bacon out and I gave it to our lab, our dog. And that was it, you know. So, and then we went full on vegan in 2014, I think January. It was our New Year's resolution that
Mine
year.
too.
There you go.
Yeah.
2014. And honestly, by that point, it was easy because we already weren't eating. The only thing we hadn't completely cut out was dairy and cheese. It was a big deal. You know, cheese is a hard thing for a lot of people. And that's because it's physically addicting, you know. But the longer I went without eating the cheese, the less I craved it. And after about 6 weeks, it was a no-brainer.
Right.
You know, and I started feeling better.
Yes, of course. I noticed a huge difference from actually when I went vegetarian to vegan. I just felt so much better giving up the dairy products. Like everything from my digestion, my skin improved. It was a big difference. But honestly, I don't even crave cheese anymore.
Right, I don't either.
It's not even something I miss at all.
It's kind of funny when someone tells me they're lactose intolerant because I look at them and I'm just like, no, that's not really a thing. You know, it's because you're not a baby cow. You know?
Exactly.
And then they look at me like I'm the crazy one.
Right.
You know?
Right. So I'm sure you get stares all of the time. I mean, people that know you know that you run this sanctuary. And what is it like dealing with people around you and dealing with your daughter and some other family members that may not also be vegan?
You know, almost all of my family that I have any interaction with are very respectful of my veganism. And they know if they come here to visit or to the sanctuary that they don't bring any animal products. But a lot of my family, I don't have anything to do with them. To be fair, it's not all because of the veganism. There's a lot of people in my family, they don't like me and I don't like them, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I've lost friends because of the veganism, you know. I had a girlfriend who was visiting and she said, well, let's go get something to eat. And I said, well, that's fine, but you need to know I really only I don't sit at a table with someone else. You know, let's go get a salad somewhere. Well, that offended her, and I never heard from her again. And we were friends for decades.
Wow. It's so funny you say that. Something very similar happened to me where I was going out to lunch with my friend who I hadn't seen in like 2 or 3 years. It was COVID, and we just like kind of lost touch during that time. She went to a school in California. I was in school in Jersey. Anyway, we went out to go eat, and we went to this Mexican place that had about 10 vegan options. It was like so easy for her to just order one of those options, but I feel like she deliberately ordered the chicken Hawaiian burrito or whatever it was. And I remember saying to her, I don't feel comfortable sitting down with you while you eat that. Do you mind if we just go back to your house? And that is the end of it. And I remember her calling me crazy and stupid and psycho and getting really, really mad. Well, now, fast forward 5 years later, she's vegan.
I love it.
And she's going to sanctuaries and
I love it.
Hanging with animals, and she gets it. And she's like, I don't know why I didn't understand.
Yeah, it's a very personal matter for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, eating, everything we do revolves around eating.
Yeah.
I mean, think of a single function that you go to or do or event that doesn't involve food.
Right.
And so when you tell somebody, hey, I would rather you don't eat this or this or this, they take that personally. And here's what's crazy. I eat all the same things I used to eat. They're just based on plants now.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
But it is a learning curve. There is a learning curve. And, you know, when we went vegan, full on vegan, it was almost 2 years into it when I found out that not all alcohol is vegan. Yeah. I had no clue what isinglass is.
Cathy's out here just drinking her whiskey and
and wine,
and
red wine,
yes.
as
Red
the
wine.
biggest.
Yeah.
And then someone told me about the app Barnivore.
Yes.
And so now I never buy any alcohol unless I check the app first.
Or a quick Google. Also, there's all these different products like gelatin, certain sugars, and you know, there's different things to look out for. But
So I'll tell you one you might not know. We recently, on our van that we use for transport and rescues, we needed new tires. So I reached out to 3 or 4 different of my LinkedIn connections who had an in with tire companies, and one company got back to us and donated the tires. Not only did they donate, they asked us which tires we would like. Okay. And I told them I wanted Michelin tires. And the guy said, oh, that's a really excellent choice. And I said, well, Michelin tires are vegan. I said, they are the only vegan tires out there. and he had no clue.
Wow, what are the non-vegan tires made of?
They have animal products in them, like glue and stuff like that. A lot of your rubbers and polymers and glues have animal products in them.
Wow.
But Michelin tires are vegan. And so now my van has nice brand new Michelin tires thanks to this wonderful donor who wanted to remain anonymous, but it was a large tire manufacturing company.
It's amazing.
And that was great.
And I think because we are vegans living in a non-vegan world, we do the best that we can in the world that we live in. So there's certain examples where if you have pet snakes that are rescued, or you have cats that are required to eat a certain diet. I do know some vegan cats, but I'm also not a vet, so you have to do what's best for the animal as well. There's certain things where we do the best that we can to as far as is practically possible. And there's certain things that we cannot control. So for example, if I'm getting in an Uber and the Uber has leather seats, while I recognize it and I'm upset about it, I don't think that by me directly taking that Uber somewhere is causing that cow to suffer, kind of thing. Because again, we are vegans living in a non-vegan world. So we do the best that we can.
Well, the other thing too is it's impossible. Like when somebody says, like one of the really popular vegan memes is, nobody died for my food. Well, that's not really 100% true, because the truck that transported your food, I'm sure, took out some insects while going down the highway.
Yeah. The biggest thing is when they say that the vegetables that were grown in those fields, when the tractors harvested them, that they killed mice.
Right.
But we can get into that because there is a good point about that I want to touch on.
Yeah, you can't, like I do my own gardening. We grow a lot of our own food, but I would not be able to do that without killing earthworms.
Yeah.
You can't dig in the ground and not. Now, if I'm digging in the ground and I come across a bunch of worms, I pick them up and I move them aside.
Right.
But when I push that shovel into the ground to start digging it up, of course I'm going to hit some.
But don't they actually regrow? Like if you cut them in half?
They do, but it's still got to be painful.
Yeah, I don't know much.
Yeah, I don't either. I've never heard a worm scream, but the worm wiggles around a lot. Right. To me, that's symptom, a sign that it didn't feel good to have that shovel slice him in half.
Right. So we want to do the best that we can to not cause suffering. So with the vegetable thing, it's actually an argument for veganism because what these people comment all the time, they're like, well, you kill so many animals with your tofu and this and that. Well, they don't realize that 70% of the food that's grown is fed to the 80 billion farm animals that exist. So you're actually causing way more casualties. And that doesn't even include the land that is cleared for the cattle grazing. Like you are just simply talking about the food that is grown for these animals, not the 1% of vegans that exist. Like I always say to people, I'm like, do you eat tomatoes? Do you eat cucumbers? Do you eat, carrots? Well, then you are part of the problem as well. And I think eventually we're going to move towards more sustainable methods of farming, like greenhouses, vertical farming, where they're inside of houses where we don't have to even clear the land for it. But the other part is that you can actually grow way more plant-based food on less land using less resources. And animals are terrible calorie converters. You give them food and then they only give you a way more reduced calorie. So it's like go directly to the nutrients, go directly to the fruits and vegetables. That's my spiel on that.
Well, here's the other thing. There's about 8 billion people on the planet now. And how many of them are starving to death?
900 million something.
But we can feed 80 billion animals, 10 times the amount of animals, but we can't feed the people. How crazy is that?
Right, and it's like take some of that arable land from the land that we use to grow the animal feed and grow human crops and feed that to the people. Like we could solve world hunger on a plant-based diet.
Yep, but you can't tell people, they don't want to hear it. They're just not, most of the population is not ready to hear it.
Right. And so it's like one of those things too, with this type of thing, I always tell people, I'm like, do your own research. Like I want you to question everything I say and I want you to go home and do your own research because the information is out there. Like we live in a world where you can watch Cowspiracy, you can watch Earthlings, you can watch Forks Over Knives and learn how these industries are terrible for your health. So why don't you talk a little bit about your journey with health and all the goods that you buy in bulk and some tips and tricks that you have for your vegan lifestyle?
Well, we do buy a lot of stuff in bulk just because it saves so much money and we have the ability, like I have a large enough house to where I can store stuff when I buy it in bulk. But the other reason I like to buy it in bulk is because I have more control over the process of that food if I buy stuff, my ingredients, and then make the items myself. Like buying the dried beans. I don't have to worry about BPA in the cans and, what else did they put in this canned bean besides water and sea salt?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So if I buy 50 pounds of dried beans, then I have more control and then just cook them myself. But, as far as being vegan, it's very easy now. The hardest thing is when you go into the store and want to try something new, you have to really read the ingredients because sometimes the box will even say vegan and it's not actually vegan.
I noticed that.
Yeah, you have to really be careful.
Milk powder is whey.
Right. Well,
honey.
Also, if you see E, the letter E and a number like 60 or 30, that's some kind of, it's bugs. And so that's the hardest part about being vegan is reading the ingredients and deciphering that
But then the question
foreign
is,
language almost.
Why would you want to eat something that has a list of 60 ingredients? It's like the best thing that you could do is to eat a whole foods plant-based diet that is simply the vegetable that doesn't have the ingredients in it.
And that's most of what I eat, but I do like a good Beyond Burger.
Okay, wait, Beyond Burgers, but even with Beyond Burgers, it's like I can read all the ingredients.
Right.
We know that they're vegan, they're non-GMO, they're gluten-free, whatever. And I noticed that you were also gluten-free. So
yes,
talk a little bit about that, and you're also soy-free.
Yeah, well, and my hands are actually broke out a little bit right now because I was eating. I'm also sunflower seeds. I've developed an allergy to.
Wow.
And so those corn chips that we were eating, they had sunflower oil on them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it could be something to do with the Lyme's disease, right? That causes inflammation?
Well, that's why I went gluten-free.
Okay.
Was because of the Lyme's disease my hands would swell up so bad you couldn't even tell I had knuckles sometimes. But gluten is very inflammatory in your body. Mm-hmm. And so we decided to try to, convert all of our food to gluten-free food. Yeah. I can cheat once in a while and there's no repercussions because I'm not celiac.
Yeah.
But I noticed within 4 or 5 days of cutting all gluten out of my diet, I noticed my knees stopped aching. I would wake up in the morning and my hands wouldn't be swollen. And the further away that I got from gluten, the better I felt.
Right.
I don't take any prescription medications. I don't take any Advil. It's rare that I take an Aleve. Maybe twice a year I'll take an Aleve for like a headache or something.
It's amazing you make so much of your stuff from scratch. I mean, this morning Cathy made us a cashew milk mixture, which is basically just raw cashews soaked overnight. The ratio is 1 cup of cashews to 1 cup of water. Blend it up, add a little bit of salt. You can add monk fruit sweetener or even dates, and you literally have milk, which is amazing.
Right. Well, that ratio 1 to 1 is cream. It makes it really kind of thick,
creamy,
which is great for coffee. If you want to make it for like cereal, like that, then you would do like 2 to 1, 2 parts water to 1 part cashews. And actually, Lauren, he likes it even a little bit waterier, so he'll add a little extra water.
Oh, okay.
But the nice thing is once you blend it up to make the cream, if you want to have milk, you can just add water and shake it right in a jar. You don't have to blend it again because it kind of mixes really well.
So Lauren is Cathy's son, and it's so amazing that you guys were able to take this journey together because you have each other. You both are working so hard at maintaining the sanctuary. It's not an easy job, right? So what is like a day-to-day like for you? And you're also running your own business. So walk me through the second you wake up to the second you go to bed.
Well, I can tell you the second I wake up, when my feet hit the floor, I'm on the go until usually 1, 2 o'clock in the next morning. That's when I go to bed, and I have no problem falling asleep. Because I get up and the first thing I do is take care of Cracker and all the inside animals, because there's probably about 8 animals inside that I have to take care of before I even come out to do all the ones out here.
And the ones that are inside either have injuries or are too old to be outside or blind,
or
need
disability,
a little disabilities, need that extra care.
I think he brought Waddles out. I think Waddles is over there. Yeah, in the swimming pool.
Aw.
It takes about 2 hours in the morning to take care of everybody, and that's without cleaning any pens.
Wow.
Okay? Because I don't just like throw food and water at everybody. I make sure that every single person, I call them persons because they're my favorite people.
Yeah.
I make sure that every single body out here has some kind of stimulation and variety.
Yeah.
Like today, Onyx is over in that smaller cage, which kind of sucks, but he's around all of his friends.
He's good. He's got all the stimulation. Right. He's got all of his friends.
But now tomorrow, he won't be in that little cage. He'll be in one of the bigger cages.
Right.
So, and once we finish with the wood chips and can finish fencing in the area, we've got two, like this 10 by 10 kennel, I've got 2 more of them. I just haven't put them up yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the industry, chickens are kept in a cage that's literally no bigger
than a sheet of paper.
A sheet of paper.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. They can't even spread their wings. They can't engage in natural behaviors. I see a chicken over there doing a little dust bath. You know, you see the ducks over here, they want to swim in the water, you know, so these are natural behaviors that these animals are deprived of in the animal ag industries. So, okay, so you do the inside of the house where you give the Waddles a bath and clean the sheets.
And take care of Cody and Beauregard. They got to have their cookie in the morning and their back rub. And Cracker gets his food, and then before I come out, I bring Honey with me, and Honey is the one chicken that comes in each night to get a bath because she really, Holiday, really.
He wants some action.
Yes, that's exactly what he wants.
Everybody's getting a great view.
Tail.
Holiday's tail back there. Some turkey butt.
And Holiday's name is Holiday because we feel like that's the only way you should have a holiday turkey is as a member of your family.
Yes. I love that. I love that.
Then I take care of everybody out here. Then I go back inside and we feed Brandy. That takes about 20 minutes. Wow. We syringe feed her twice a day. And because chickens are visual eaters. And so when she lost the ability to see, she stopped eating. And we could have just let her naturally pass on. And in fact, had she not adapted well to being a house chicken, we would have taken her and had her euthanized. But after about a week, she was like, okay, this is not so bad. And she has her own personal iPhone that she can listen to YouTube videos on. And there's actually this one YouTube video. It's called Backyard Chicken Sounds, I think, or Barnyard Noises. I don't know, but it's like 8 hours long. Perfect. So I can put that on for her like when we're outside, and it just plays chickens clucking and roosters crowing and ducks quacking all day long. And she loves that. Yeah. And you can tell that she likes it because I'll put it on one side of the pool where she is, and she'll come over and she'll sit right next to it. Aww. So then if there's anybody else that needs extra attention, we take care of that. And if not, then I have my morning coffee by like 1:30 in the afternoon and sit down and do my work on the computer, which is what Lauren and I do with our business is we do reselling. Okay. So most of my part of the job is doing research, trying to find, you got to buy low and sell high, and so that's what I do all day. I look on the internet, I find products that I can purchase wholesale. And then turn around, they get delivered here. We buy them by the truckload. Yeah. And then Lauren, his part of the job is he processes them, he labels them, and we send them into Amazon, and then they sell. Yeah.
So it's like you have your own full-time business on top of this, which is a full-time job. Right. So where is there time for Cathy?
Well, I just told you in the morning when I'm out here with everybody.
That's your time.
I mean, how many people have a job where as soon as they come out, everybody is so excited to see you that they just jump and they honk and they scream and they climb up on you and they peck at you. And it's like a standing ovation every morning. As soon as I come outside, everybody's excited to see me. They're like, the food lady is here. And they're so happy. Yeah. What a great job, right? Yeah. And then same thing when I go inside. When I go inside, Cody and Beauregard, they're so happy that I'm back. So all day long, my job is one applause after another. Everybody's happy to see me. I'm the food lady. Yeah. So that's what I do. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say there aren't times where I wish I could just stay in bed today, but it's not good for me to stay in bed all day. So if I want to have a pity party, it's got to be a short one, because everybody's out here waiting for me to come feed them. So that's my me time. That's really my favorite time of the day. The only thing I like more than spending time with my critters is in the evening when Lauren and I make dinner together, or when I go and see my daughter and spend time with my grandchildren.
Right. And you have your grandkids that come here and help out as well?
Yes, they do. They come, and usually they'll come, because there's 8 of them, I can take one home at a time and keep them for a whole week.
Right.
So they get to be an only child for a week, you know, and I get to spend that quality one-on-one time with them. And then about a month later, I'll bring another one home. And there have been times where Judy and Ray, my son-in-law and my daughter, will bring them all to me, and I'll keep them all.
8 grandkids.
It's total chaos. Okay, when you take 8 kids and mix them in with 80 animals, it's total pandemonium. Okay. But it's a lot of fun too. Yeah. And I'll keep them for 2 or 3 days so Judy and Ray can have some Judy and Ray time. Right. But usually by the 3rd day, Judy's ready for her kids to come back.
Yeah, and so you're ready probably to pass them.
I'm tired. Yeah. I need a vacation after that. But it's pandemonium, but it's a blast.
You know what it is too about animals is it's that unconditional love. Like I feel like there's so much we can learn from animals. Like these animals, a lot of them came from really terrible situations of neglect, abuse, and yet they're still able to forgive and they're able to move on and show you love. And that's such a beautiful thing. And I really do think that there's so much that we as humans can learn from animals. But it's interesting because it's like we have such an affinity towards dogs and cats, yet they're really not that much different.
Well, the industry is at fault for that. The animal agriculture industry, it's their fault. They don't want us to know what they're doing. Right. You know, if they did, they wouldn't hide it so well. And they do hide it really well, you know. And they don't want everyone to know that the chicken they're eating had feelings and had a life that they wanted to keep. You know, they don't want us to know that. That's why they put that picture of the happy cow on the milk carton. There's no such thing as a happy cow in the dairy industry.
How would people react if they did know that?
Depends on the person. You know, it really does. It depends on the person. Mm-hmm. Some people are totally open to the idea that, yeah, you're right, we shouldn't be eating these guys. Mm-hmm. And that same person will then go home and still eat animals, even though they're open to the idea, because not everybody's a rebel. I'm a rebel by nature. I've always been a rebel. My whole life I've been a rebel/outcast with everything that I do. My whole life.
I'm so curious.
But I'm just saying, so it's, you know, like homeschooling. You know, I homeschooled my kids back, you know, well, Lauren's 40 years old. He was in 2nd grade when I pulled him from school. It was barely legal. Wow. You know, nobody knew what homeschooling was back then. Now everybody, you know, does homeschooling. But back then, this was like even just at the very beginnings of the internet, you know? Right. And so that's just another example of my being.
Right, and not just following what society and the government and everybody has told you to do all along. And I think that it's so important that we do question things and not just follow status quo as it is. And there were times in history where things that were legal were morally wrong.
Reprehensible, actually.
Exactly. And now we would look back at the things that we used to do to women, to people of color, to Jews, to all different people, and we would be we're repulsed, we're disgusted with that behavior and the way we treated people. And it's the people that stood against that did everybody call crazy, they were ridiculed. And then finally it was this awakening. We had a societal shift. It took, like what we're doing now with animal agriculture, it takes courage, it takes bravery, it takes activism to speak up about these issues, to create awareness and to create change. And eventually that change will come because no injustice can last forever. Right. And so that's what we're doing. And I think you doing your part with taking care of these animals, which is there is such a need for sanctuaries, because where do the rescued animals go if we save them?
You know, it's not even just, it's like, I can't save all the animals and I can't make a difference to all the animals, but I make a world of difference to these animals. And because of that, they can be the ambassadors for all the animals that didn't get that opportunity. They can be that kind of beacon to help show everybody else how it should be, how it could be, and how one day it will be. I really believe 100 years from now, they're going to look back on this time and they're going to be like, what do you mean they used to eat animals? What? Yeah. You know, I really do believe that.
Right. And just because something's legal doesn't make it right.
Well, and plus they say, you know, I have people tell me, well, that's why God put them here. I personally am not a huge believer in God. I believe in Mother Nature.
Yeah, me too.
But if you read the Bible, I mean, the Garden of Eden was vegan.
And what about the first commandment? Thou shalt not kill.
Right. But the simple fact of the matter is the Garden of Eden was vegan.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It says right in the Bible, the lion laid down with the lamb. Okay? We screwed that up supposedly.
With the flood or something,
well, and here's the other thing too is if the God is supposed to be this loving and caring God, why would he make it so the animals can feel pain?
Right.
You know, that makes no sense on any level. It just, you know, it's nature, and there is a circle of life. But if you really want to study the circle of life, people are not the way they try to make it out to be. Okay, we're not the top of the food chain.
No, put us in the jungle with the lions and the tigers, we would be dead in a matter of minutes.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, up with the bears, whatnot. And that it just goes to show too that it's like in 2023 where we have such a plethora of amazing plant-based products, people that have access to grocery stores and supermarkets, you have the ability to do better. And you can actually save money on a plant-based diet. You can feel better, your health will thank you in the long term. It's like, do you want to be on medications when you're in your older years, spending a ton of money paying for medications when you can just take care of your health now? Maybe invest in your health a little bit more now so that in the long run, you're not on high blood pressure, cholesterol, indigestion medicine.
It's crazy. You know, they say we're living longer, but we're not. We're dying longer.
Right.
Okay, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You know, because these people, I mean, why is the nursing home industry such a huge industry now? You know, because people get to be 65, 70 years old and they can't walk and they can't care for themselves because they're in such poor health. And they're taking 5, 10, 15 different medications, and all the medications are bad. All of the medications are bad.
Side effects.
Yes. Even antibiotics are, there's a lot of, I mean, you got to have them sometimes. But there's not a single medication out there. Like my doctor, when I gained that weight, remember I told you I gained 30 pounds, well, my blood pressure went up. And my doctor gave me a prescription for some kind of blood pressure medication. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. Okay. But I'm not, you know, I'm not going to fill it. He made me take so I did. And I came home, I did my research. I knew it was because I wasn't exercising, because my knee, and because I gained the weight. But I started researching and I found out that beetroot powder and beets are really good for your blood pressure. And I bought a 5-pound bag of beetroot powder. I started sprinkling it on my food, and within 6 weeks, my blood pressure had normalized. And when I went back to the doctor to follow up, and he saw he says, "Oh, I see your blood pressure's fine now. You're taking that medication, right?" And I was like, he couldn't believe it.
I love that. And
beetroot powder is great.
I didn't even know that.
I didn't either.
Amazing. And it just goes to show too that a lot of doctors don't actually have nutritional backgrounds and nutritional degrees. And even nutritionists are taught to follow the standard American diet, and they don't even know a lot of the facts about nutrition.
Well, that's because our medical system and the food and drugs and the pharmaceutical companies, they're all in cahoots with each other.
Of course. It's like, where's the money? Follow the money. Even certain studies that you read, look at who's funding the study. You know, there's no cholesterol in plant-based products. You can get every single nutrient.
Is that Waddles? Sorry.
Waddles!
How'd he do?
He jumped out of his swimming pool to follow me outside.
Oh.
He jumped out. I heard this big commotion and he just jumped out of his pool. So I brought him out and I cleaned the swimming pool and he just spent the whole time in the swimming pool.
That is so sweet.
Did you get some good video?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good.
So I love it. Everybody's got a name here. Everybody has friends and groups. And Lauren was telling me, you know, you got the bachelors, you got the nerds over here, the popular. It's really amazing. But as I was saying before, there's not one nutrient that you can't get from a whole foods plant-based diet. You just got to make sure you're eating a variety of foods.
That is true. That is very true. I don't take a multivitamin, but I also The other thing that I found that was interesting was that when we went full on vegan, our diet changed drastically, but in a good way. Like we eat such a bigger variety of foods now. You know, we eat broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts all in 1 week,
Lot of
and
greens.
asparagus and things that, you know, broccoli rabe and what's the one that I like so much? I can't even think of the name of it.
Broccolini.
Oh yeah, I like broccolini, but
Bok
bok
choy.
choy. Yeah, I had never eaten bok choy
choy.
before.
I love bok choy. I'd never
Yeah.
eaten it before either. It's amazing.
It's incredible the amount of vegetables and fruits that are out there that most people never eat.
It's amazing. It is truly, I feel so much better. And I always suggest guys get a blood test every year, regardless if you're vegan or not, because there are a lot of meat eaters that are nutrient deficient in plenty of things. Like before I went vegan, I was iron deficient.
Okay.
And after I went vegan, I was eating a ton of pumpkin seeds. I was eating a ton of leafy greens and dates, which are super high in iron. And honestly, like I'm perfectly fine now. I don't take any supplements consistently. Speaking of pumpkin seeds, you introduced me to a new alternative to tofu that is 17 grams of protein. It's called PumFu.
PumFu, yeah.
I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but it's basically like tofu. You season it as much or as little as you want because it kind of absorbs the flavor. You can bake it, fry it, saute it.
Air fry it, just great in the air fryer.
Cathy made me a plate the other day and it was amazing and so filling. Gluten-free, soy-free, it's awesome. So I would recommend getting that for sure. So I guess what are some ways that people that want to get involved in animal rights, that want to help out, how can people support you? And also what can people do to help further the movement?
Well, if they want to support us in the sanctuary, they can follow us on social media. They can go to our website. It's flipflopsanimalsanctuary.org, and there are links to our Patreon, which we really would like to have more patrons because it would make it easier for us to budget for like the food. Like the barn is almost out of straw, and it costs $500 to fill it with straw. And when we go to the feed store, we buy $600 worth of feed at a time that lasts about 6 weeks. So if we had more patrons, you know, like we have 70,000 followers on TikTok. Imagine if everybody that followed us just signed up for $1 a month. We'd be set. You know, we would have all the food, all the straw, and we wouldn't be turning animals away. You know, that's the hardest thing that I have to do is when someone reaches out to me and says, you know, hey, I have this rooster, or hey, I have, like the reason why we start locking the gate all the time, one of the reasons was someone just came along and just dumped a chicken with a broken leg in a box on our property. Oh my God. You know, and you had to foot the bill for that because what are you going to do?
Right.
You know, but at least once a week right now, I turn someone away. And it's funding more than anything else.
Right, and it's the hardest part about the job, but you also have to be smart about it and be like, okay, this is how much land I have, these are how many resources I have. If you take in way too many animals, it's gonna become a hoarding situation where you're not gonna be able to care for them. So yeah, you have to be smart. And as you said, you are making a world of a difference for these animals that are here. But it's one of those things that if you guys can help support sanctuaries, Flip Flops Animal Sanctuary, Skylands Animal Sanctuary, Barnyard, I can name a million. Yeah. If you could just put $1 a month towards these organizations, they could take in more animals, they can run more comfortably and not have to, you know, worry or struggle about money. I mean, even during COVID, you were like, okay, well, my business isn't doing as well. I have all these animals to care for. It's a really scary feeling.
We had some very wonderful people step up and help us, way more than they should have had to, and we wouldn't have made it without them.
Wow.
But now we make ends meet, we make do, but we're not accepting any new animals because I don't want that to impact the commitment that we've made to these guys. Like we're committed to make sure these guys are taken care of properly. Right. And I can't do that if I take on any more animals. Right. And it's really more about the resources than it is about land or time. Because I have 4 acres here. Mm-hmm. So I really could comfortably have twice as many animals if I had the funding to get, you know,
somebody
insurance.
Hire somebody also.
Well, you know, there's enough people in the community that would volunteer. I really believe that if I had the ability to have liability insurance, you know, or some kind of insurance so that if someone did get hurt, I don't want to like kick them to the side and say, oh, well, I hope see you later. Hope you can fix your sprained ankle or whatever. I want to be able, when I had my landscape business, I always kept workers' comp insurance.
Right.
Because if one of my guys got injured, I wanted to be able to take care of them because they injured themselves working for me. So the same thing here. We have a very small handful of volunteers that we accept because we know them well. I also know they have their own health insurance so that if something did happen, it wouldn't leave them strapped. They could go and get cared for properly.
Well, working with animals, you do have to be careful. I mean, roosters, oh my God, yeah. It's like roosters have really sharp spurs from their feet. Turkeys, can sometimes, this guy seems like an angel, but it's one of those things where you even have emus over there that if they were pissed, they could kick you and kill you.
Well, they could, but we don't let anybody go in with the emus ever. No volunteers go in unless Lauren's with them.
Right.
But yeah, they could just be walking along here feeding everybody and twist their ankle because the ground is uneven.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I would want to be in a position to make sure that person was cared for properly.
Right.
So if we had that in place, then I could have regular volunteers and I would take on more animals, because while I am working every minute of every day, there's still more minutes. You always can make the time if you have the resources.
Right.
And that's and all sanctuaries are like that. You can't save them all.
Right.
That's the hardest part.
That's the hardest part. Well, what I loved about what you said to me this morning was you were like, every single dollar that you make is spent on these animals. Everything, you don't wear makeup, you don't go on vacations, you don't buy beauty products or whatever it is. You cut your own hair. That is so selfless. Like, not a lot of people can say that you spend everything on your kids, your residents that you have here. Yeah. So it takes a really special person to even be able to run a sanctuary. And I admire everything that you guys are doing. And I hope that through this podcast, I hope you guys see just how much it takes to run a beautiful sanctuary like this. And you have to be responsible with this. Please guys, don't go out and just open a sanctuary in your bathroom.
Yeah, well, you can't. Yeah, it's there are a lot of what they call micro sanctuaries where someone does kind of have 4 or 5 animals they saved in their house. Right. And that's great too, as long as the first thing in their mind should be the quality of life for the animal, not not the person's quality of life. Right. I'm very simple. It doesn't take a lot to make me happy. Okay. So, when we adopted Cody and they said, well, don't give her too much water at a time because she'll make a mess. I'm like, well, of course she'll make a mess. She's a wild bird living in your house. Why would you invite a wild animal to live in your house and then restrict them from their natural behavior? Right. If you have inside chickens, that's fine. A lot of chickens do very well inside, but they still need to come outside sometimes. They need to be able to scratch in the ground and look for bugs and so it's important if you want to start a sanctuary, do your research first and make sure that you are prepared to put that animal first.
Yeah, and know how to care for them. Even vet bills can really add up.
We've had some crazy vet bills. Vet bill. Well, Cookie, we're $3,000 into his treatment for a rooster, and he's worth every penny. And thanks to a very recent, huge donation from a foundation that helps support us, who I think they want to remain anonymous, they paid off the balance of his vet bill.
Wow.
For us. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So now we're in a position to where if somebody needs a vet, we can take somebody to the vet again. And that's the other thing that you want to consider is there a vet in your area that will see these animals?
Right. It's the thing about what I don't understand is it's why did you and I make the connection with these animals? Could it be empathy? Could it be something in our childhood where we had positive experiences with animals where we were like, wow, they have a soul that I want to care for them? Why us? I get that some people go vegan for the environment, some people go vegan for their health, some people go vegan for the animals like you and I think that's what keeps you vegan in the long term. But What do you think it is that like made us make the connection as opposed
I don't
to
know.
others?
I don't know the answer to that, because it does require a certain amount of rebellion in your personality to do this. It really does, because you're going against the grain, the very fabric of society. You're going against it. You know, but that's always throughout history where change has come, is from the rebels, not from the people that just go along with what everyone else does. And so on top of the empathy and on top of that connection, because I've seen people make the connection, I've seen that spark in them, and they go on to eat animals because they don't have that rebellion in them. They don't have that ability to stand up when everybody else sits down. And basically, that's what vegans do every day. When everybody else goes that way, the vegan says, no, I'm going over here.
Right.
Be damned what everybody else is doing. The person that is going to stand up for the animals is going to stand up for the animals, no matter what. No matter if they put handcuffs on them, you know, put them in jail, charge them with trespassing, charge them with cattle rustling with that poor Asha's sanctuary. Was that the name of it?
Yeah.
Asha's? Yeah, that's awful.
I know.
You know, she's in trouble for doing the right thing.
Right.
And from what I know about that situation, the people with that were trying to take those cows back are awful people.
Yeah.
They showed up with their children, their young children, trying to make people think that they're their pets.
Oh my God.
They're not their pets. You would send them to slaughter. You don't have children have pets and send them to slaughter.
Right. It's all about money. It's all about money. And it just yesterday there was a calf actually that escaped a slaughterhouse in Brooklyn. And Mike from Skylands Animal Sanctuary tried calling to say, I'll take the calf. You know, there's something about an animal that escapes and has this like unrelenting desire to live and will fight and run for their life that, you know, we'll do anything we can to save them. And so it was amazing how much triumph Mike had to go through just to get these people to release the animal. But then once they do release the animal, they feel like this hero because they let that one animal live. They saved a life, even though a couple thousand more were killed by those same people that day. And it's so interesting that when you have these animals that escape slaughterhouses, everybody's rooting for them to escape and survive and win. Yet the real question is, why were they there in the first place?
No, I agree with you.
They were there in the first place because human beings wanted them on their plates. And it's just unacceptable at this point, because these animals feel joy, they feel happiness, they dream, they remember, they have emotions, they love, they dislike, and just like us. And they deserve to be treated with that same respect. And I really do feel that it's that moment that we devalue the lives of another being, whether it's because of their skin color, whether it's because they have feathers versus fur, whether it's because they speak a different language than we do. That is the root of all oppression.
Well, and it's so arbitrary too about the animals we do eat and the animals we don't eat. You know, like nobody thinks anything of eating a turkey, but oh my God, don't eat a bald eagle.
True.
Where's the difference?
True.
You know, go ahead and eat that chicken, but don't you dare kill an osprey and eat an osprey. What is the difference? Right. They probably all taste the same. Mm-hmm. So it's very arbitrary. But I will say that I notice here in the United States, we eat the animals that don't fight back. You know, why don't we eat lions or tigers or even bears, although some people do eat bears. But, you know, we eat the animals that can't fight back.
Right. Because they're the easiest to harm and oppress, which is so messed up.
Right. Right. And even the cows, you know, the bulls that have the horns, we cut their horns off so they can't fight back.
Right.
You know, the same thing with goats. You know, it tears me up when I see somebody with a goat that's had their horns burned off. Right. It's such a painful, awful thing to do to an animal. We had some battery hens here that actually came from a production farm, and their toes had been cut off.
Oh my God.
And the ends of their beaks had been cut off. And they do that in the industry because they're kept in such tiny confinement that they damage themselves and they damage each other. And so the answer, instead of giving them a larger area, the answer is to cut their toes and their beaks off. You know, it's like how did we get to this point as a civilization?
It
A
sounds-
quote unquote civilization.
Right, it sounds psychotic, but the only way that we're able to do what we do to these animals is by devaluing their lives and by saying, oh, they're stupid. Chickens have, you know, a 30-second memory, which is not true. It's like we make up these lies in our heads and devalue their worth so that we're able to oppress them and do the things that we do to them.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Which is so crazy. So I guess, what is your stance on backyard eggs then?
I hate it. Is it better than a factory farm chicken egg? Marginally. Okay, and I say marginally because most people that get backyard chickens, they order them through the mail. So these little babies hatch out, they're stuffed into a box, and they're shipped across country.
Right.
Like a box of books.
Right.
And they often don't make the trip. Because what if they arrive a day late? What if they arrive at the post office after it's closed and it's 20 degrees outside?
Right. Well,
You know?
also, what about the male baby chicks that were killed the first day of life, and then those were the female ones that were then shipped to people, but the male baby chicks in the egg industry in hatcheries are ground up alive first day of life. So it's like, okay, well, let's backtrack. If you have backyard eggs, like, where did the hens come from? Were they rescued from the industry, or were they then bought, and were you paying the industry to supply them? So that's where the question comes in. So yeah, sure, putting them in your backyard is better than in a factory farm, but then they're also forced to lay eggs. Their little bodies can't handle it, but they were bred that way to have their periods, lay an egg every single day, which is, you're really only supposed to have your period once a month. And it's painful for them.
Right, exactly. And that's the way they, you know, the original wild chickens, that's what they would lay, between 12 and 18 eggs a year, you know. So it's awful. I don't like backyard chickens at all. Because the other thing too is people oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes they're not going to spend money to take that animal to a vet when it gets sick.
Right.
And chickens get sick,
Right.
you know, and for every hen, there was a rooster. Okay, because that's the ratio. It's about 50-50. Right. So for every hen that hatches out, there's a rooster. So even if you get chickens and you let some of the eggs hatch, you're going to end up with half roosters and half. What are you going to do with the roosters?
Right.
There's roosters at the Linda Kelly Animal Shelter right now, but we can't take them. There's one down there. He's beautiful little bantam hen. His name is Russell Crowe. They named him Russell Crowe. And he's been there for weeks, languishing in an inside kennel, you know. Now they give him the best care they can, but they're an animal shelter.
And they won't take him to the slaughterhouse.
They're a no-kill shelter. Okay. But having said that, once somebody's been there long enough, they will transfer them sometimes to a kill shelter when they get at capacity.
Right.
You know, there's only so many animals they can take in.
Right.
I get an email from them every day with some kind of animal that needs to be rescued.
Wow.
I don't even open the emails anymore.
You can't, yeah.
Because I don't have the ability to take them. Right.
So, okay, you got all these animals, it's springtime, everybody's horny. What the hell do we do about babies? And when you have a sanctuary, you obviously don't want the animals to have more babies. We don't want to take in any animals. We don't want to have them have any more babies. So what do you do?
We just collect the eggs. We make sure we collect, and it's hard. Okay, it's hard because especially Zorro has a very strong desire to have babies. So she lays an egg, she makes a nest every day, she lays an egg, and then she hides that egg from us.
Oh,
she covers it up with straw before she'll come out and eat. So we have to go in while she's distracted eating, we go in and we take the egg. And we just do that with the chickens, we do it with the ducks, because we can't, you know, I'm not gonna, even if they, you know, we weren't at capacity, I still wouldn't do it, because for every animal hatched here, it would negate the ability for me to rescue one that's needs to be rescued. Right. You know, so we collect the eggs up, we take them inside. Sometimes we feed them back to them raw. Most of the time I take them inside and put them in a big crock pot I have and cook them up for hard-boiled eggs and then feed them back to them a little at a time.
Right, because feeding the eggs back to the animals is actually really healthy for them, because when they release the egg, a lot of calcium and nutrients are depleted, so they really actually enjoy being fed the eggs, and it's one of those great ways to replenish those nutrients lost and give back to the animals instead of exploiting them and commodifying them by taking the eggs away from them.
And it cuts down on the feed bill.
Perfect.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
But they do. A lot of times we have more eggs than they'll eat at a time. So when that happens, I put them in the freezer. And then when we have a 90-degree day, it makes a great snack. Like I'll actually drop the eggs into the pool and it'll keep the pool water cool, and they'll go in there and they'll eat them. I crack the shell on them so that they can eat them easily. But that makes a nice 90-degree day snack.
It's great. Well, this has been so amazing and super enlightening, and I hope that you guys, enjoyed hearing from Cathy about what it's like running a sanctuary, the struggles, but also the rewards that come with it, which clearly is a lot. It's almost as if through this movement, I don't know about you, but I felt like I've found my purpose.
Oh, yeah, I do. I do feel like this is my purpose, is to help the animals where I can. And help educate. And I don't know how many people may or may not have gone vegan because of me, but I know I have planted the seed in a lot of people's minds.
Right.
A lot.
Yeah, I can't imagine somebody coming here, seeing how beautiful and sweet they are and being like, oh, well, I'm gonna go eat them. Not like, no, it actually gets you thinking for a second, because for once you're able to see the animals living a beautiful life and not dead on your plate.
Right.
Because the only time that you're normally exposed to farm animals is when they're on your plate. Yeah. So being able to see them lively and free is so beautiful. So thank you so much, Cathy. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and reach out?
Okay, so the sanctuary itself is located in Huntingtown, Maryland. We have a website. It's flipflopsanimalsanctuary.org. We also have a Facebook page, same thing, Flip Flops Animal Sanctuary. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of it's the same thing, Flip Flops Animal Sanctuary. And if you want to donate or give, there's links in all the different social medias and on the website. It's very easy. You can just click on the link and Venmo, PayPal, Patreon, whatever.
Great, and what's also amazing is you can stay here through the Vegan Stay. So if you go to www.theveganstay.com, you can go type in Cathys Sanctuary. It's in Huntingtown, Maryland, and you can stay here, and all of your money will be donated back to the sanctuary to help care for the animals. You'll get a really nice room with a great queen-size bed, bathroom, you're all set, and you can help out and play with the animals. And so for the rest of the day, what do we got going on, Cathy? Put me to work.
Oh, I'm gonna put you to work in that pen right there. We're gonna clean it out, because since we had that fox attack the other day, everybody's staying locked up more, so we need to clean it out.
Great, so we're gonna get to cleaning, guys. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Jamie. Obviously, this is Cathy. You can follow us at It's Jamie's Corner on Instagram. You can go to the website, itsjamiescorner.com. If you really like this podcast, it really helps. Like, subscribe, and I appreciate you. Go check out flipflopsanimalsanctuary.org, and until next time, bye!
I think Holiday was waiting for you to interview him.
Yeah, clearly. Holiday, what do you got going on, buddy? What do you got going on? Are you ever not horny?